Welcome to That Sports Couple. Today we have with us Lutcher football coach Dwain Jenkins. Welcome, Dwain Jenkins. Thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be back again this year.
Coach, week one, exciting around the river parishes. How's it looking, Lutcher?
Yeah, well, they come for real now. All the dress rehearsals are finished. All the preseason games that we get to try to figure some things out are done, and now they start counting. So the intensity, it matters a lot, and you can tell the kids know that season has changed now. All the preparation, all the camp, the summer work is gone, and now at the end of the night, that record's going to look a little different. So you've seen it with the kids starting Monday morning, Labor Day. We practice in the morning, and they know what's expected of them at this time, and that's probably the one thing that in Lutcher and at all the schools in the River Parish is they know what those expectations are. They're high, they're lofty. It's sometimes hard to live up to, but I think it makes it easy to motivate. Kids know that unless you're playing the second week of December and you're walking out of the Superdome with a trophy in your hand, and a gold trophy at that, not even the second place trophy, that it's going to be seen as a failure by some unless you walk out with the ultimate prize at the end.
And the best thing is nobody's watching the Weather Channel this week. Knock wood.
It was touch and go all last Friday. Obviously, we were hosting the return of the River Parish Jamboree last week with Hornville and St. James, and then us and Destran playing back-to-back here in Lutcher, and it was
so cool.
We dodged lightning Wednesday night for the JV Jamboree at Hornville, and then Friday it seemed like it rained all day long, but we finally got the weather to let up right at kickoff, so it ended up being a nice night.
Excellent.
You know, and you talking with Coach Wayne Stein from St. Charles, he talks about trying to bring those rivalries back, play those games as regular season games as well. I know you and he have a home and home going, but would you like to see it get bigger too?
Yeah, it's one of those things that we've kind of gone different directions with this deal, and I think everybody wants to do what's best for their program. And I think for that 10-year stretch with Coach Scott and Coach Robichaud and what we did between Lutcher and Destran, playing those JV varsity doubleheaders, it served us well. But there was a push to maybe get back, and Hornville and St. James had been scrimmaging against each other. So for them to move that game back 1 week wasn't a big deal for them. So the four of us got together and got the St. James and St. Charles Parish schools back on the same page. And I know Coach Stein and Coach Brown have been playing East St. John, St. Charles in the Jamboree. And then you've kind of seen it spring into the regular season as well, with us and St. Charles playing for the last couple of years whenever Mother Nature allows us to play. Yeah. That's been the trick with that series, kind of going back. It seems like we've missed out on some home games with them due to Mother Nature, but you can't control that one. So, in the coaching world, you can't worry too much about the things you can't control.
Right. And we had such a great product, though. All the River Parishes teams, 2 nights, 2 sites. Everybody got to see everybody at least once. I don't know why it ended or how it ended, but I'm glad to see at least part of it the majority of it is back.
Yeah. Yes. I think the key for it is still trying to balance being able to get those JV guys and being able to get most of the guys in your program that opportunity to play that week one, because in the old format, that was something that was missed. And
I see it.
That was kind of my, I guess one of my non-negotiables kind of when we started talking about bringing it back together, was just making sure we had a way that those young kids would still get to play in that week 0 opportunity for them to get out there and for the first time and kind of see what it's like.
Sure.
Most people don't keep records for those things, but sometimes you're just trying to find out. You're trying to find out what guys can play for you on Friday night and putting them in that atmosphere where you got a JV varsity doubleheader sometimes with a big crowd with the lights on. You can learn stuff about a young kid, get back there to return a punt for the first time, lining up on the field on the far side without a coach there to help guide him through to see if they're ready to play. So I think keeping that JV Jamboree was big for us getting it back together. And I think as we go forward, I think that's a big piece of getting everybody back together. I know East St. John and Riverside, so the only people missing really was Riverside and West St. John. And West St. John's been hosting their own the last couple of years.
Right.
And they're so small that they don't really have a viable JV program.
Right. It gets tough for them to play those double headers like that because we scrimmage West St. John every year in the fall. And due to the lack of numbers that they've had in the past, and I think they're starting to pick those numbers back up again, we've started doing three-way scrimmages. That way we can make sure that all of our guys get to play in that scrimmage as well. West St. John, like Coach Thomas says, he says, we don't have a lot. We don't have a true twos, but we'll get out there with some guys that we need to see play other positions. So this year it was us, West St. John, and De La Salle that played in that scrimmage, and it was a really competitive scrimmage, especially when you're talking ones-on-ones. And I think Coach Thomas and West St. John are going to have an excellent year this year.
Well, his numbers are going up. I'm hearing he's over 40, close to 50, which is a big jump compared to what he was a few years ago. Yeah. But what are your numbers, Hank?
We've been kind of steady around 89 through 12. I guess the blessing and the curse of having the middle school on campus is a lot of programs see that large influx of kids as that freshman year, and then you kind of weed that number out. Where for us, we get those large bumps in 7th and 8th grade, and they kind of weed themselves out before they become freshmen. So our numbers normally stay right around 80 for the 9 through 12, and then we're normally somewhere between 55 and 65 in our 7th and 8th grade. So we go from classes of about 30 to 35 in middle school to classes of about 20 by the time they get to high school.
So going into week one, talk about your schedule a little bit.
Well, this week we start off on the road, and just kind of the way our schedule kind of shook out this year with hurricanes and everything that popped up that adjusts when you play home and away. With us in St. Charles, which has kind of been the marquee in our pre-district for us. It's a weird schedule where we started on the road for the first 3 weeks. So we're going on the road to L. We go to St. Charles, and then we're on the road on a Thursday night against Liberty on a game that's going to be broadcast statewide. So it's a little bit of a challenge, I guess, to start the season with that many games on the road. But you only play one of them every week, so it really doesn't matter where you play. You got to prepare the same way. And I've gotten that question a lot from the media kind of building up to the season, but it really hasn't been something that we've talked about with the team because each week's a new week. It doesn't matter where you played the Friday before. So we've been focusing on Slidell this week. A 5A program. They've got some excitement with them. They had a first-year head coach last year, and Coach Page, and he kind of got the culture of that program kind of turned the way that he wanted it. Struggled during the season. They lost, I think, 4 one-score games, he told me. So they ended up 2-8 and missing the playoffs, but a score here and a score there. They're a 6-4 team in the playoffs. They played the Covington, who was, I think, either the district champ or the district runner-up last year in that district in a 7-6 game, and just kind of came up a point short. So I think he's really excited about his team that he has coming back. I think he returns 11 starters on defense. So I guess when you return that many guys on defense, you got a lot to be excited about. So we know it's going to be a challenge. They'll be big and physical. We can see that on film. They scrimmaged Walker, who's a perennial 5A playoff team, and they did very well against Walker. And they struggled a little bit last week in the Jamboree, but kind of some things kind of snowballed against them early on. They gave up a long touchdown pass on the first play, fumbled a kickoff early on, and was kind of behind the 8 ball from the start. But everybody's 0-0 going into this week, and everybody's hopes and dreams are still there. So you know you're going to get teams best shot.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your players and what your expectations are.
Well, I think for us this year, it's a little unique. We're a school for probably the last 25 years that you talk about Lutcher, you talk about skill guys when you've had the success that you've had, whether it's been Blaine Gauthier, Gavin Webster at quarterback. You talk about Jarvis Landry, Daniel Taylor, John Trey Kirkland, Dontre Davis, and the list goes on and on and on and on, Lunch Winfield. So we've been a school that's really been known for skill guys, but we returned 5 starters on the offensive line this year. We kind of took some lumps with those kids, started them when they were all young sophomores a couple of years ago, coming off that state championship in 2022, going into the 23 season. We graduated our whole offensive line off that state championship team. So we started 3 sophomores and a freshman, and then we had another young sophomore that was kind of filling in and playing some spots there. And we had a freshman that was another guy whose spot played for us last year as a sophomore. Now you got all those guys back that are juniors and seniors. So you've got a lot of high expectations for us on the offensive line. And it's a great place to build and break in new skill guys when you can kind of lean on the experience of a front. They're big. The first one that jumps off the bus when you see him is Jaden Michael. He's 6'4", he's 310 pounds, plays left tackle for us. He's going to be our first FBS Division I offensive line signee since 1973 with Craig Dewey played.
No way. Wow.
It's been over 50 years that we've had an offensive lineman that's gone on and played at the Division I FBS level. So that kind of goes back to that first comment I made about our skill guys. Everybody knows us for our skill guys.
Yeah.
We've had some offensive linemen that have gone on. I remember back in the 90s, we had Jamal Butler that went and played at Jackson State. We had Chris Hemel in the early 2000s, part of that 2003 state championship team, and played at Stillman in Alabama. Most recently, we had Samaj Scott, who's a starter for Nichols right now as a redshirt junior. So we've had some guys that's going on, but we just haven't any of them that's played at the FBS level. And Jaden seems to be is going to be our first guy in over 50 years to do that. So we're pretty excited about that opportunity for him. Matt Lambert's another senior for us. Great kid, 4.0, just like Jaden. They're two great kids to have anchor your offensive line as our two tackles. He's 6'3", he's 275. He's from the long line of Lamberts that we've had come through here since the 70s. He's just the recent one, I guess. I think he might be the baby of the group, the last generation that's coming through. So we'll get started on the next generation, I guess, here soon, hopefully. But Matt's just a great kid. He started for us all last year. And then the other senior in the group is Logan Bourne. Logan's our center, 3-year starter for us at center. He was the 275 weight class state champion in powerlifting this past year. So that's a good spot to have anchor in the middle of your offensive line is that kid. We have Hastings, Colin Hastings. He's the junior that he started every game as a freshman. We joke that he doesn't know what Wednesday night football even looks like because he never played JV. From middle school, playing on Thursday nights to playing on Friday nights with the varsity. But he's our starting guard. He's got a little flexibility, but he was the runner-up to Logan in that 275 weight class in the state powerlifting meet. So you got two guys that line up right next to each other that are pretty dang strong and gives us an anchor. And then the fifth guy is Caden Long. He started some guys for us. He's also a junior. He'll be playing other guard. 6 foot, 270-pound kid. Another really sharp kid, great student in the classroom. And then the other guy, who was the fifth guy who started games for us the last 2 years, is Quantez Joseph. He started games at tackle and guard for us the last 2 years and kind of changed his body a little bit, kind of kept losing weight. And we moved him to H-back. So we've got a guy who's probably started about 8 games for us in the offensive line the last 2 years, and now he gets to play H-back and tight end. So it gives us a lot of experience blocking. So that's kind of where we start with our football team. And then you flip to the defensive side of the ball. We've got 7 starters back on defense.
Wow.
Starting with our nose guard, Caden Parquette. Caden is a 3-year starter for us, but actually he's a little bit more than that because as a freshman in 2022, we had our starting nose guard get hurt in the quarterfinals, and he jumped in and played nose guard the second half of a quarterfinal game, a whole semifinal game, and started a game in a state championship as a freshman at nose guard. And he's been nothing but dominant ever since then. So he's a big piece in what we do. He's extremely athletic. He's probably what you think of when you think of Lutcher defensive lineman, a little bit undersized, probably about 6 foot, about 250 pounds, but has a motor, doesn't quit, can really run, and can get after the passer, but can play sideline to sideline. So he's just kind of the next in that line. We've had a lot of athletic defensive linemen that's come through this program, and Caden's right there with some of the best of them. Our experiences on our second level of our defense, we've got 2 guys at a back that started every game for us the last 2 years, and Coy Ruiz and Dre Sabinski, 2 inside linebackers. Both of those guys were part of that state championship powerlifting team. Both of them were able to get on a podium. So you can kind of see a crossover there with the success of our front 7 on defense and our guys that play on the offensive line in our powerlifting program. And then in our secondary, we've got 4 guys who we moved from different positions last year to get them into the secondary, and they all started last year. And we kind of took our bumps because we graduated all those guys. But we got Jace Ferrygood, who's going to be a junior. He's back playing in the secondary. We got Ashton Stark, who's a 2-way guy for us. Played receiver as a freshman, was an all-district return guy, and then he was able to move over and played safety for us last year. Going to play both sides of the ball. Chase Pittman started at receiver, some as a sophomore, moved over, played corner as a junior, and now he's going to play safety as a senior. And then Derek Jackson's been a 3-year starter for us on the back end. So we've got a lot of experience on our defensive side of the ball and on our front to help kind of grow some young guys at the skill positions, especially on offense.
And you got some legacy players. Like we talked with Dwain Stein. Only the first names changed. The last names kind of stay the same.
And that's one of the great things I think about River Parish football, but it's community schools. All of these guys have a vested interest because they've all had a brother play. They've all had an uncle play. Their dad played. The big thing right now, we're going through that cycle where I've either played with or coached all of these kids' dads. I don't know what that says about me, but it tells me that I'm getting some of these gray hairs.
I know what it says about me. Too many juniors out there. I want you to talk about your powerlifting team and how that helps and affects your football team. Because not everybody has one. Not everybody invests in one. Talk about that a little bit, what it means for you as a football coach to have a successful powerlifting team. They've won how many state championships?
Well, our girls have been incredible. Our girls have won 18. Our boys have, in the last 5 years, they've won 2 state championships and 3 runner-ups. So they've been really consistent.
Right.
So Coach Daigle, who's our strength and conditioning coach, he also coaches our linebackers. He's been with me since I became the head coach at St. James. He came over from Dutchtown. He was my defensive coordinator and came back with me when I came to Lutcher. And he's kind of been that guy that's kind of headed that program and kind of really started putting a lot of emphasis on it and getting those guys to compete at a high level in the off season. And if you go all the way back to the beginnings of the Powerlifting Association, that was kind of what it was for. It was kind of trying to find a place for some of those football guys who didn't play those other sports, who weren't a basketball guy, who didn't run track, who didn't play baseball, to find a place for them to compete in the off season. And it's kind of grown from there over the last probably 35, 40 years in the state of Louisiana. It's been one of the fastest growing sports in Louisiana.
Yes.
But we've had a ton of success with our girls, with John and Kelly Magindy. They've run our girls program now for the last 19 years, and they've won every state championship. The only one they didn't win was COVID because we didn't have a state championship. But and Chris saw that success that they were having and started asking them what did they think we needed to do on a boys' side to kind of get to that same level. And John and Kelly have been really helpful with helping us build that program to that same level. The boys is really competitive on the powerlifting side. You've got a lot of teams that are kind of vying for those spots. The scoring is a little bit the team scoring is a little bit lower than what you see on the girls' side. So it gets competitive. We've lost a state championship by a tiebreaker a couple years ago where we had the same number of points, but they had more first place. We've won one by 1 point. We won one by 2. So it's been really competitive. But I think what it does is it, especially for your linemen and your mid-skill guys, your linebackers who maybe aren't basketball players, who maybe aren't track guys, it gives them a place to be competitive in the offseason. And I think we talk about being multi-sport athletes and all of those things. Sometimes we only think, when people hear multi-sport, they think about the skill guys. They think about the guys who are playing receiver, the defensive backs. But those big guys need to be multi-sport too and have different movements and have different ways to compete in the offseason. And I think the biggest thing is just getting those guys to compete. They take it seriously, and obviously on a football field, if you can be bigger, faster, and stronger, you're going to have some success. And that's what we've been able to find. Sometimes we've got some guys that are undersized, maybe height-wise, but if we can get them to max out their strength and be as strong as they can be, it gives us a chance to be successful.
For a while, it was wrestling, and wrestling started to take off a little bit, but it looks like you guys have inspired a lot of powerlifting people to get started.
Well, I think part of that is maybe like the cost of entry. I don't know if you've ever priced a wrestling mat and what that costs, but a wrestling mat is an expensive, it's a big investment. It's kind of like pole vault pits. Like you got to get $40,000 out of the way before you even start. Everybody's got a weight room. So that cost is down. And then you get into some specialized equipment that you need on a powerlifting side. So it does have some expenses, but the entry level isn't as high as what it is for wrestling. So I think that's the reason why you've seen powerlifting take off.
Talking like a real athletic director.
When you wear both hats, you know all.
Coach, unless I missed it, you talked about your offensive line. I don't think we did
No, we didn't. I didn't get to any else skill guys. So I'll start with Jamilin Joseph. He's our running back. We kind of knew, kind of looking into the future as a coach, you focused on that 1 year. You want to do everything you can to win for that group of seniors that is going out, and that's what we did last year. But we knew coming into this year, we were going to have a void in our skill spots. And Jamilin was ready to play for us last year as a sophomore. He was just behind Trenton Chaney, who went to UL Lafayette, was an all-state kick returner for us last year. Trenton was a dynamic running back who was able to play receiver as well. So why not use some of Trenton's skills in the receiver spot and be able to get Jamilin, we call him Fat, even though there's not an ounce of fat on his body. I don't know why he's got that nickname, but his nickname is Fat.
Lutcher has some great nicknames over the years. I remember.
So Fat Joseph ended up getting about 85 carries for us last year as a running back, so we can put Trenton at receiver just to kind of get him ready to carry the load this year as a junior. So he's kind of the centerpiece of our offense going into this year behind our experienced offensive line. We'll see him get a lot of touches, a lot of carries, and he's been explosive through our scrimmages and our jamboree. So we look for him to kind of carry that on through the season. Ashton Stark, I talked about him a little bit. He was a guy that played for us as a freshman at receiver. We had such a deficiency in the secondary last year. We moved him over to learn to play safety. He ended up playing safety and still spotted some on offense and ended up being our second leading receiver last year. So he's a two-way guy. He's going to have to be dynamic for us and make some plays and be a guy that teams have to game plan for week in and week out. And then Chase Pittman's kind of in that same mode. Chase played for us some as a sophomore, moved him over to play corner last year as a junior, and now he's playing both safety and receiver as a senior. So those are our two-way guys. And we've got some young guys who are kind of growing into the role at receiver. Leandre Booth is a sophomore. He's 6'2", about 180 pounds, so he's a bigger receiver. That was kind of one of the things we thought last year. We had a bunch of receivers, and they were really good, but they were all the same kid. They were all 5'9", 5'10", 175 pounds. They could run, which is great, and you can build your offense around it. But this year we've got some variety. We've got a 6'2" kid. We've got another 6'3", 200-pound kid that plays inline tight end for us, Thomas Roussel, who's a senior, who gives us some flexibility because he can put his hand in the dirt and he can go spread out wide so he can get in different looks without having to change personnel. I talked about Quantez Joseph. He's one of our H-backs. Brody Dewey is a sophomore who's kind of getting some reps to be the next guy in that spot. We got another receiver, Johnny Jones, who may end up being a household name.
Where did he come from? That's not a River Parish's name.
He's a kid. He's from Convent and hadn't played football before. He's been a basketball guy. Had played big in the AAU circuit and came to us in the spring and wanted to play football. And he's got a lot of upside as he figures this thing out. He's 6'4" and can really run. So really gives us a different option there. So I'm interested to see how he kind of develops. He made in our scrimmage, he made one of those splash plays, like the one clip. The college coach only needs to see one clip to know if he needs to look at the guy. He made one of those plays. And then when you see him in person, you see how big he is. So we think he's got a lot of potential and maybe a key for us as we kind of go. And then the question that's always asked in Lutcher is who's playing quarterback? That's always
not a Jenkins. Not a Jenkins.
It's not Zach Jenkins. He's preoccupied. He's changed made that transition from being a player to getting in coaching. He is an undergrad assistant at LSU. He's working with Coach Frank Wilson with the running backs, and he's about as excited as could be last Saturday night after that win at Clemson. Was called us from the field after the game was over and was just as excited. Really, just to talk about him for a couple of seconds, went to fall camp with the team and been there and went away from home and living in a hotel for a couple of weeks at 18 and one of the youngest guys there. And your peers are players now. So your real peers now are the coaches on the coach's side, and all of them are much older, but handled maturity, went through that whole fall camp piece, working 85, 90 hours a week, whatever it was that they were putting in on those college staffs, and got through it, and then got the reward of being on the sideline and being there when LSU went to Clemson.
Go ahead. Follow Dad's footsteps.
He's excited about first home game this week at Louisiana Tech, and I guess that means I'll be making a few more LSU games than I normally do, because normally I like to crash on Saturdays. But But that has been the question of the offseason is who is going to be the quarterback. And we've had a really great competition with 3 great kids. We still haven't settled on a starter, but you have to have a starter each and every week. So,
Kellen Moore.
Yeah. So, kind of going into that, MJ Simon has really played and really grown up a lot. He won't be getting a start this week, but he'll be getting some opportunities to kind of continue to try to win that job, either whether it's through JV, but he's also a talented athlete. So we've given him an opportunity to play for us some on Friday nights at receiver this week and kind of made that transition because he can give us some depth. He's a taller kid, about 6'1", can run pretty well and has got great hands. And we really liked what we've seen from him this week as he kind of transitioned to getting more reps at receiver than he was at quarterback. So the 2 guys that's going to play this week in the varsity game is going to be Dylan Delanaville, who's also a junior, left-handed pitcher from our baseball team. He's coming off an injury that sidelined him last baseball season, and it's really just kind of been getting some of that confidence and edge that he kind of played with because he's not a big kid, but he plays with a little arrogance, a little cockiness, which is good. And that's what we just need to get that back out of that piece of his game back. And we're hoping that through some reps in JV this week and then getting his reps on Friday night that he can get some of that edge back and really be the player that we all know he can be, but he's got to get that confidence back in himself to be able to be that guy. And then the newcomer is a freshman. His name is Timmy Charles, really talented. We've seen him the last 2 years in middle school, and he kind of gradually was that guy through the summer. The first 7-on-7 didn't get any reps, and then the next week he got him a couple series, and he was able to make the transition, do some good things. And the next week got a few more, and kind of each week he's kind of just continue to build that resume. And even though his snaps have been limited through these preseason games, he's made the most of them. So we'll be playing this. Him and Dylan will get the majority of the reps this Friday, and we'll see what it looks like after a JV game tonight and a game this Friday, and see if we need to adjust that plan with the quarterbacks going into next week. But they've really handled it well. I like to tell people most of the time kids can handle things a whole lot better than the adults in the world. If we can keep the adults out of it, the kids normally can figure it out and support each other and be good teammates. And they know. I don't think any of the conversations I had this week with any of those guys talking about the plan for the week surprised anybody.
Right.
I think everybody's out there. They kind of know what they need to do better, and that's just kind of part of it. So somebody's got to start, and at that position, unfortunately, you don't get to hide the starter. There's only one of them. It's not a personnel thing where you can get somebody else on the field and then maybe somebody else is playing half the snaps. But it's part of growing up. We've been fortunate to have some great young men that's played that position before, and I think all of these guys are more than capable of winning football games for us.
Well, you can get away with a little bit of youth when you've got experienced linemen like you have.
Yes.
And you can run the football and take the pressure off of them.
Yep.
But sounds like you're all ready to roll.
Lutcher's locked and loaded.
Well, that's one of the things that we do talk a lot about is we know what those expectations are. You can't run them from it here in Lutcher. You walk out the locker room and there's a board that tells you how many state championships you have, and that's the only thing that's on it. It doesn't matter if you went 9-0 and won a district championship. It doesn't matter if you made it to the quarterfinals. I feel bad sometimes. We did win a state runner-up here in 1973, but you got to go digging and looking in a corner of the room for the trophy. All you have a building. I was like, those 9 state championships are prominent and out in front, but that one runner-up's kind of ducked off in a corner. But it's still hard, and that's what people don't understand. I think people, especially recently, with all the stuff that's going on with the LHSA, people start talking about the split and select and non-select and all those things. It's still hard to win a state championship.
Oh yeah.
No matter what
hard to get there.
No matter what the format is, still so many things have to go right to be able to win it. And that's what people get lost. And I think sometimes adults slight kids, but not realizing how hard a job it is to get there and how much pressure it is on these kids. And then how much luck sometimes you can't afford to have an injury, especially at a key spot at a key time, because it can hurt you. And I thought that was one of our keys last year. We were a really good football team. We just happened to play another really good football team in the second round of the playoffs, and two of our best players were injured. It happens. We played hard. We played well. We probably played well enough to win, but they made one more play than us, and they beat us 49-42. It's kind of how it goes. You get some opportunities, and you like to take advantage of them when those opportunities are there. But sometimes you don't have all the luck, and everything doesn't line up, and you just move on and learn from it. Life's not always fair, and that's what athletics is about. It's not always about the championships. It's about teaching young men and young women how to be successful with the rest of their lives.
Well, one thing about Lutcher is you all do a fine job of doing that, and all your programs are very respected and all. So that's a tribute to the school, tribute to your coaching staff. I know a lot of those guys double dip. So, well, Dwain, we're going to try to talk to you a couple times during the season, if that's all right with you.
Sounds good to me. Just send me the link and we'll get on.
You got it. Thanks for joining us. And make sure you put those trophies in the background.
I will. I'll keep them there. All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Coach.